Hey everyone, my name is Brandon Scott. I am a wedding photographer based in Monterey, California, coming to you today in full-on grandpa mode because it's a cold, wet, very wintry day today here on the coast of California. I wanted to real quick answer a question that comes up a lot, which is, do photographers need to charge sales tax? A lot of you don't know this, but my background before becoming a wedding photographer full-time was a CPA, which for those not in the know, is a certified public accountant, otherwise known as a certifiable nerd. Basically, I would shoot weddings on the weekends, I would do engagement shoots in the evenings, and I would work at the accounting firm Monday through Friday during the day. And I did that for 3 or 4 years until I was finally able to quit accounting full-time and jump into wedding photography as my full-time job. And now this is my 15th wedding season, which is crazy to say. So yeah, I am really excited to actually be able to incorporate a little bit of that accounting knowledge into helping you photographers and fellow creatives run your business better, which is part of the reason why I wanted to start this YouTube channel, not just to talk about fun gear or wedding photography and just photography in general, but also be able to leverage that background to help you guys become better at managing your own photography and creative businesses. This question comes up a fair amount, which is, do I need to charge sales tax as a photographer? I'm going to be talking about it in the context of wedding photography, since that's what I do, but there's going to be a lot of overlap. And I do apologize for those non-USA viewers out there. I know that you guys have a value-added tax, but I'm not sure how that affects photography. Maybe you can shed some light on it and let us know in the comment section. I know that there are 5 states in the United States that don't charge sales tax. And so for you guys, this might not apply either, but for the 45 other states, there's going to be some variation in the fine details from state to state, but overall, for yours, it's going to be the same as here in California. So I'm going to kind of be approaching it from that perspective. So let's go ahead and real quick just touch on what the heck is going on with sales tax in the context of something that's not a physical good. What is a photograph? A photograph has changed in the eyes of the sales tax, in the eyes of sales tax law over the years. Back in the pre-digital days, photographers were only delivering physical goods. So it was a pretty clean sales tax transaction. You knew as a photographer that you owed it because you're delivering physical goods, which is what sales tax kind of hinges on. So you're delivering albums, proofs, prints, negatives, all these things. Then comes digital photography and kind of like turns the sales tax world upside down. Yeah, you all of a sudden now have the state missing a ton of sales tax revenue because everybody's delivering things digitally. They came out about 15 years ago with an entire PDF addressing sales tax for photographers. And in it were some pretty interesting things. The main term that you need to familiarize yourself with is called load and leave. The state says if you load your photos onto a cloud-based hosting provider, such as PicTime, and leave them there for your client to retrieve whenever they want, at their own leisure, then that is not a sales taxable transaction. You might think to yourself, that's like a very weirdly nuanced perspective, and you'd be right. The alternative would be something like, let's say your client brings you their computer, you hook yours up to it and transfer your photos onto their computer. For some reason, that's not loading and leaving, and that's taxable. You want to find yourself some kind of cloud hosting provider like PicTime that you can load your files onto and then send the client the link and let them retrieve them. I think most of us who are in wedding photography do that already, but if you're not and you're doing maybe commercial or some other type of photography, maybe keep that in mind. So then what constitutes a taxable transaction? Let's say you have a wedding package that is digital only. It's your digital photo only package and it's $5,000. You take the wedding photos, you come back home, you edit, you upload them to PicTime, you send your client the link. That's it. There's no sales tax owed on that $5,000 because you did the load and leave method. Now let's say you have another package and it's your base package plus a book. Well, let's say you charge $6,000 for that. Because you're adding just the book, that triggers sales tax on the entire $6,000, not just the $1,000 difference that represents the addition of the book. That seems kind of silly. The state's logic here is that, yeah, except all of the photos you took went into creating the physical good. Therefore, all of the photos you took, and at $5,000 of value that might represent is a taxable transaction along with the book that you gave the client. So that whole $6,000 now is something you need to charge sales tax on. Now that you know that you need to charge sales tax, and you decide how you're going to do it, either you're charging the client and then holding on to the money and then sending it to the state, or you're charging them just your base rate, not adding sales tax, and you're paying it on the back end, you now need to file a sales tax return. So remember to think of sales tax this way. It's not your money. So if you end up charging your client for sales tax on a book, an album, they're going to pay it to you, but it's not money that you keep. It's money that belongs to the state that you're holding on for a second and then you're passing along. And the way you pass that along is by filing a sales tax return. In the case of something like a business like Apple, you go into your Apple store, you buy a $2,000 MacBook, they charge you $2,200 on your receipt because it's going to be the MacBook price plus sales tax. That is not Apple getting an extra $200 on the transaction. That's Apple getting $2,000 for the MacBook they're selling you, and they're getting $200 of the state's money that they're holding on to, but then they're going to give to the state at the end of the day. So for your sales tax return, I end up paying quarterly, which means every January 31st, April 30th, July 31st, and October 31st, I pay sales tax to the state for the quarter before. So what I do, I enter in all of the income that I received for that quarter. Let's say it's $50,000. The state assumes that all of that income is taxable unless it isn't. The simple way that a sales tax return works is you start with your total and then you back out non-taxable amounts, and whatever's left over at the bottom is what you owe sales tax on. Let's say I start with $50,000, and then let's say $40,000 of that is represented by the load and leave digital delivery only. I back that out. Now I have $10,000 that in theory I owe tax on. But now let's say $9,000 of that is what the state calls interstate commerce. If I'm photographing the wedding of somebody in another state, or if they're coming here but they live in another state and I'm doing their wedding in California but they live in Florida, then I don't have to charge sales tax on that. So let's say that's $9,000. I can take that out, and that leaves $1,000 at the end of the sales tax calculation that I owe tax on. Let's say I look at what that $1,000 is. Oh, it's an engagement session that I did for a couple who lives here in California, and I delivered a few prints from. That I do owe sales tax on. So the total sales tax that I'm going to owe for this quarter is $1,000 times the sales tax rate. Now I can either have collected that from the couple when I made that transaction, or what I do, I just pay it on the back end and I don't charge the couple sales tax. So there's another common category of non-taxable transactions that I run into as a wedding photographer, and that's the sale of prints. You might be using a service like PicTime, where clients can go into their gallery, order prints through PicTime, and then PicTime will give you a share of the proceeds at the end of every, whatever it is, 2 weeks, month. I think it's 2 weeks for me. Basically what this is a consignment. You think of a consignment store. Let's say I want to go sell this grandpa sweater. I can go to a consignment store. I can give them my sweater, and they'll put it on their rack, and somebody can come into the consignment store, buy my sweater, and the consignment store will not give me the total that they sold it for. They'll give me the total minus their cut, a percentage of the sale, not the entire sale. They're going to pay sales tax since they made the transaction. So in the case of PicTime and the prints are being sold by PicTime. You're uploading your photos to PicTime's website on consignment. They're making the print sale, and they're just giving you a profit sharing percentage of the print sale. So in that case, it's a consignment sale, and you do not need to charge sales tax on that. And one more thing you might be thinking, what if instead I do the digital photo package and then just gift the client a book? I'll just tell them I'm giving them a gift. Well, here's the thing about calling them gifts. If a client is looking at your packages and they see $5,000 is the digital photo package, and they get a free gift of a book and a flash drive and a t-shirt and whatever, their expectation is by booking that package that they'll get those physical goods, and that's still a taxable transaction for the entire amount. The only way that you can get away with the gift not triggering a taxable transaction is if the client genuinely has no expectation at the time of booking that they're going to be receiving those items. All right, guys, I know that was kind of a short video. I know it was kind of a boring topic, but it's one that comes up a lot, and it's also a very important one for you as a photographer running a photography business to be aware of. Also, be sure to share this with people, especially some of your photographer friends who might not know they're supposed to be charging sales tax. and you might want to subtly give them a nudge that they should be. Spread the word, because it's a big topic and it's one that is clouded in mystery. Hopefully this was able to shed some light on it. If you want to follow along, you can find me on Instagram. My handle there is Hello Brandon Scott. I'm free to take questions there too. That's where most of these sales tax questions come through, actually. So to close things out, I need to legally read you this silly disclaimer because still have a CPA license and 'tis the law. I have not provided tax advice nor considered your specific tax situation. This is simply general education on money and taxation. Have a great week.